Okay, we've started recording now, so we're going to get ready to roll. I believe it's going. All right, let's take a look at this slide that's up on the screen. Pretty much, this covers everything that this chapter was about. Tell me what this chapter was about, chapter 15. What was some of the big stuff that happened? What really was the overall thing of chapter 15? Was it slavery? What was it about, Caitlin? Tradition? Yeah. Improvements. Or another word you could use for it is changes. Say it a little louder. They couldn't hear you on number 2 mic.
Changes.
Thank you for the ridiculous changes. All right. So with some of these changes, if you look at this picture, what changes are we looking at, Raven? Okay, good. We've got education changes. What did it mean for educational changes? Actually, yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say? Oh, could blacks actually go to school? Yeah. At that time? Okay. Things are starting to change, but was that in the South? Why not in the South? They still had slavery. So now we've got some equal rights for those that are in the North, for the blacks that are living up there. And you know they didn't immigrate, they were brought to America and given their freedom here, which is kind of a pathetic thing, don't you think? Now they're at least allowing those black students in the North to become educated, right? As they're becoming educated, what happens to their strength and power in the North? What did we say about knowledge? What does it do? It gives you power. Did they have full-on, all-out, equal rights power? No, they still didn't treat them as well. However, at least they're allowing them to become educated. The thing about the South was, you don't want any of your slaves to become educated. Why? They'll get smart. They'll what? You'll lose power. See, that should be a lesson for all you guys, right? Is the more knowledge you have, the better grasp you have of your future. The less control people have over your lives. You have a destiny wide open in front of you. Knowledge is the way to get there. Okay? No matter what it is. Okay, what's another one that's happened in there? Raven, go ahead. You did so well on the first one.
Abolition.
Okay. Abolition? What is abolition? Okay, good. And what was that? Go ahead. Yeah, basically the same thing Cheyenne said. It's the groups that wanted to end slavery. Who was the big guy that did the newspaper, that started the things rolling up in the North? Horace Mann. You bet. Good job. And he had a paper up there that talked about he wanted to end slavery in all the United States. In fact, he made comments that made him kind of an enemy of the South, right? Okay. Full social and political equality for African Americans wanted by some abolitionists. They wanted to say, if it truly means that all men are created equal, we really need to consider all men being treated equally. And that was their thought on that. Did they get their way? You could say, not really. It took a long time for people to start to come into equality. Okay, one more thing about education. If you think about it, colleges for women, schools for African Americans and disabled. The colleges for women, why is that such a big deal? Women really didn't have any rights, did they? Could they vote? No. Okay. See, you guys got to remember when it comes time to vote, think about all those that suffered to get you the right to vote. Right? It's a big deal. Okay, and that's when we come down here. Women's rights, they were fighting for that right to vote. What did they call it? There's another word that you use for women being able to vote. Women's suffrage. Okay? Did you say it? Only you can't whisper, man. I'm way up here. And I'm old. I'm kind of deaf. All right. Equal property rights. At one point, women were not allowed to acquire the property of their husband if he died. There's lots of instances of those who lost their land because their husband passed away. The wife and kids had to go. Okay? A lot of times they went to a place that we would look at as kind of an insane asylum. It's just a gathering place for those wayward people. Pretty awful stuff, really. Okay, what else we got? We've covered women's rights, abolition, education. What's temperance? Okay, good. It's those that wanted to make alcohol illegal, right? Big temperance movement. I mean, some of those books that you read are kind of frightening, actually. But they really wanted to limit alcohol consumption and actually go to the point of ban the sale of alcohol, right? That's kind of a big deal, isn't it? Okay, we learned something later on, but not at this point, how that works. Prison reform, what did they want to do? Okay, they wanted to make it so it's humane. You got to go on the idea that everybody screws up. Everybody makes mistakes, right? Not everybody's perfect. But if you make a mistake, should you spend every moment of every day suffering because of it? Well, you might be anyway, but at least we can make the living conditions, fair. Is that what they were going for? You think? Okay. What else was in this section? Oh, by the way, it also mentions people with mental illnesses. I think if you read some ancient texts or whatever it is, you'll find that at some point they didn't realize what was going on with some of these people, and they figured if they scared them enough, they would become normal. At least normal in their minds. Is there such a thing as normal? You can't have an actual definition, can you? Because what's normal to us in America might be abnormal to somebody else, right? So that's something to think about. But what they would do is they would say that this person's crazy, so they threw him in a snake pit to scare him, or they would do other things to try to... this is where later on we get, where they hook up probes to him and shock him to try to get him back to sane. I don't know if that's such a good idea. But at that time, they changed some of the things that they were doing with those who had mental illness. Now they're getting medical treatment instead of being held in a cell or whatever. Did you catch that? Now, let's think about this. These changes, what effect would they have, if of any of these changes, what effect would that have on those from the north being separated more from those in the south? You see anything in here that would make that difference? Remember, we're all working towards learning the causes for the Civil War. What did you find out? What do you think? Any ideas? Did a whole new era of thinking come across? Whole new era of changing the way that things were done? So we've had the Industrial Revolution. Now we're having kind of a cultural revolution, especially in the North. Is that right? The North is making some big strides towards making things differently. Now the feeling of hate between the North and South grows, especially with which one of these? Abolitionists, right? Those that speak out openly about the mistreatment of African slaves. One more step towards a war. The separation gets bigger and bigger between the attitude in the North and the attitude in the South. You follow? Any questions over this section? Anything? I think that's the main thing we want to grasp onto within this whole section is the show of the change of attitude and the way things were happening between the North and the South. Like I said, one more step. Okay, with that then we'll shut this baby down. Thank you.